Welcome back to a top level game of professional StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Protoss, a best of 3 series, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Royal Blood. Now, our Terran player, right at the start of the game, decided to send out an SCV to watch the other side of the map, and indeed, he's gonna go for an engineering bay block. Super annoying. Protoss players will generally try and build that Nexus here very shortly at about 20 supply. And he's gonna find an engineering bay. Alright, so spawning right here in the top right hand corner of Royal Blood. In for a nasty surprise. Playing right here with the blue Protoss pieces. We're looking inside of the main base of Classic. One of the very best Protoss players in the world. And it looks to me like Classic, yeah, he's thinking about building his Nexus out here. Okay, we'll have to talk about that in just a little bit. His opponent going for a very frustrating build order. Frustrating for the Protoss, that is. Playing right here with the Red Terran SCVs. Likewise also from South Korea, it can only be Mr. ByuN. Alrighty, ByuN versus Classic. It really doesn't get much better for the Terran versus Protoss matchup than these two facing off against each other. Alrighty, now we see a third base taken as the very first expansion all the time in the Zerg versus Protoss matchup, right? Where Zerg is trying to take a hatchery at 16 supply, Protoss started off the game by sending a probe straight across the map. Natural expansion for the Zerg gets blocked, and then, well, Zerg decides to go for the third base. For Zerg it's annoying, and it's frustrating, and Zergs generally don't like it, but Zerg can obviously connect their bases with creep, and their units are just simply much faster. Protoss units, compared to Zerg, especially links with speed, are freaking slow. It takes forever for those units. So say, for example, there's a bunch of units here inside of the main base protecting against, I don't know, a Widowmine drop, and they're going to be needed over at the third base. It's going to be very tricky for a Protoss player to actually get the units over there in time. Follow-up right here, by the way, from ByuN is going to be Hellions. Maybe that wasn't the original plan. But when your opponent decides to take for the, they decide to take the third base first, I think going for the Hellions here is an excellent choice, because where exactly is Classic gonna be putting his defensive units? It's gonna be Adepts. So either the main base is gonna be wide open, or the third. I keep calling this the third base, by the way, even though it's technically the second, but I'm sure that everybody understands. Anyways, Oracle first, although I did see a Phoenix right there for a little bit on the production tab. So maybe Classic originally wanted to play Phoenixes. Okay, so this is the way he wants to defend his main base, by creating a full wall off over here if it's needed. But here go the Hellions already. I do like this pylon here out front, so at the very least Classic gets a little bit of information before those Hellions start roasting the probes. 5 workers have gone down, only a single Hellion so far. Now that Oracle shows up, good thing he did decide to go for an Oracle. ByuN decides to return, probably realizing it would be difficult for him to get out anyways. So in the end, it's 6 probes right there for 4 Hellions. Is that really great for the Protoss? Yeah, great might not be the right word, because obviously those probes would gain more value over time, and the Hellions, they do fall off pretty quickly. But now it's gonna be his turn right here to attack. Phoenix is on the back of it. Robo facility here as well coming up. Cyclone actually already positioned very aggressively. Scan over here is going to get the lock on. But in the meantime, those Adepts are also working on the Cyclone, and that's going to be a Cyclone for an Oracle. Still, this is a scary amount of Protoss units here. It's just going to be Marines. There's a second Cyclone that just popped out of the factory. Not microed fast enough over there, but a lot of the Marines have already gone down. Okay, SCV starting to fall. There's the Phoenix showing up as well. Now lifting up the Cyclone, trying to take it out of the equation here temporarily. Shade over here is going to complete, but not really achieving all that much. Okay. A lot of lost mining here, of course, as well for ByuN, as he ends up losing a bunch of SCVs. The roller coaster of the income advantage is now going in favor right here of our Protoss. There's the Stimpak together with the combat shields coming up as well for ByuN. So he's ready to start up that early game transition where he's gonna stop messing around and he's just gonna start making as many Marines and Marauders as possible. Cyclone here needs to be very careful though. For the time being, those Stalkers, they outrange basically everything. Nice little bit of targeting there as well, though one of the Stalkers a little bit too exposed. Classic just wants to dance over here with these units, but he just doesn't have the numbers. Okay, well, additional Stalkers do show up. A Phoenix, a little bit overly aggressive. Obviously, those Stalkers will regenerate shields as well. Nice little bit of micro here, although this might be a bit of an overextension. The thing is, whenever you're trading Stalkers out for Marines, before Marines really get that that power spike, right? With Stimpack and combat shields, it's gonna make your follow-up transition so much easier as well. So normally, Terrans will go for an attack right when these upgrades finish up, and Protoss will just barely be able to get a Colossus out. Now in this instance, Classic has decided to go for a, double Immortal start as well. So 2 Immortals, I guess one of them... Ah, there we go. It was wandering towards the other side of the map. Now he's gonna transition, I believe, into Colossi. At least he should. Yeah, normally you get that Colossus out just barely in the nick of time before Protoss is really forced to deal with that big Terran army. But since he's been trading those Stalkers out against Marines, this is the Terran army over here. Right, a Colossus, couple Immortals, they're gonna do just fine against these numbers. Now it is triple barracks here from ByuN. Is he gonna add on an additional command center here, or are we gonna just produce as many units as possible? Third Nexus is coming up right here. It's the, well, third Nexus on the natural location. So, you know, I guess it's technically the second base location, even though it's the third Nexus. Everybody understands what you're talking about, though, Loco. Although there might be one guy who's listening to this cast and not actually watching the video. I remember my dad sometimes doing that whenever there was like a football match on, whenever we were in the car. We were driving somewhere, he would want to like quote-unquote watch football by listening to it. There must be somebody as well who watches my videos like that. Actually, there's probably quite a few people that listen to my cast but don't necessarily watch the screen. So maybe being that descriptive is not a complete exaggeration. Anyways, Terran right now are ready to go for a move out as well. I mean, this is a scary amount of stuff, but like I said, no third command center to be seen anywhere. Instead, we've got ourselves 3 reactors, we've got ourselves 2 tech labs as well. This is ByuN making a banger of an army. Once the extended thermal lens upgrade finishes up though, which is only about maybe half a minute away right now, Classic is gonna be in a very comfortable position. I mean, obviously those first engagements are very dicey. This is still a scary amount of Terran army. But he should have, Classic that is, he should have all of the tools at his disposal to shut this down. Yep. Okay, force fields. Okay, good. Slow down this army, shoot lasers. Extended thermal lens right now done. It's gonna give these Colossi a lot more range. Still though, yeah, nice picking off right there by ByuN. But this is, he does start up a third command center, but this is very aggressive right here from ByuN. He needs to deal more damage. He decides to split off his Medivacs right now against the Phoenix player. Always very dangerous. This is now scouted as well by that pylon, positioned in the middle of nowhere. Just for vision, of course. Lovely work. Colossus popped out of that Robo facility as well. It may very well be in some trouble at the same time, though. Yeah, we've got ourselves an aggressive engagement over here, too. Sentry and Zealot are gonna sacrifice itself against the mines. Looks like the Colossus in the main base has gone down, but reinforcing Protoss units are definitely gonna be able to get rid of all of those Marines and Marauders. Medivacs at this point are gone, and this turns out to be a pretty stellar hold right here for Classic. In the end, Classic right now has got 3 base economy. You can see the income advantage going heavily in his favor right now. Yeah, ByuN did get his third command center done, and he is going into the Ghost Academy right now as well. But this is an uphill battle right now for our Terran player. Fourth Nexus fires up though. A lot of Protoss players rather in this particular situation would be aggressive. I think if you're gonna give this exact situation to, like, for example, a Max, maybe a hero, they would be all over the opponent right now. It's of course scary though to attack into the Terran player here, because that means that all of their reinforcing units are basically popping into the fight. The defender's advantage is real. But by giving your opponent a lot of time right here, you're also giving your opponent a lot of chances to get back into the game. Especially someone like ByuN, very good when it comes to microing his units and that aggressive decision making. Now he's going to be able to start up the Ghost transition. Okay, well, the timing window that Classic created for himself is closing, but Classic is very much so the type of Protoss who will take an expansion rather than an aggressive fight on the other side of the map, because he probably feels like it's the more reliable choice. Okay, Disruptor's coming up right now. Additional gateways here also added into the mix. That's going to bring the grand total up to 8. Scary Medivacs towards the right side of the map, but I really love the way that Classic is sprinkling around these, sprinkling around these pylons. In a lot of locations, you will see these units before they really come in. He's even thinking about making another Nexus already here on the right side of the map. Okay, fair enough. Now that army supply count, though, of ByuN has grown quite significantly. He's going to be able to pump out a lot of units here. This army out on the map right now is really only about half of his, right? So this is something we see Cure doing all the time, where I feel like he's quite literally slicing his army in half. And he is using one end of that army on the right side of the map and the other end on the left side of the map. Very cool to watch, very difficult for Protoss to deal with. Scan over here reveals all of these Protoss units. Classic, though, is going to start heading back home. Double upgrades right now coming up as well for the Protoss. We've got ourselves the +2 started up here for ByuN, but only a single engineering bay for him. Then again, though, for Protoss here, most of the damage is going to come out of these disruptors. At the very least, they're going to force the Terran player to split. Okay, we're going to use Stimpack here to knock down the rocks. Those rocks are super dead. I mean, at this point, ByuN does get a little bit of vision of where that army is located, and he finds a beautiful angle here. This Nexus is in a world of trouble. Classic, yeah, getting a little bit fancy out on the map, just maneuvering his army back and forth in the center. That is going to be a world of trouble. He's doing a Zealot Warp in here at the bottom of the map. This Nexus, though, or Terran Nexus, rather, this command center is going to live. There's a fight going on over here with the charge slots trying their very best to get on top of this bio ball, but ByuN has managed to maneuver his way out of it. He still needs to be careful, though, because this is only a small chunk of the Terran army. And there's a lot more Terran units out here already in the natural expansion. Classic trying to shut down the trap. Yeah, he gets himself a nice warp in over here as well from one of those proxy pylons. We're gonna need the reinforcements. They're coming in from the left side of your screen right now, though. But the Purification Novas have already landed. That being said, here come those reinforcing Terran units. The Protoss heavy hitters really cannot be... Oh, he really cannot afford to lose those. Despite the fact that that fight looked pretty good right there, if that was the only army that ByuN had, there were a lot more Terran units waiting in the natural to reinforce. ByuN actually manages to now, well, once again, take a supply advantage. Lovely work right here by our Terran. Dangerous movement there by Classic. I actually don't really like his movement here around the map. Yeah, I also don't like this. ByuN's like, okay, fantastic, I'm ahead. What can I do to make this not go my way? Ah, you know what I can do? I can do a YOLO drop into the main base. Now, this time around it works out. I don't think this is going to be a bad trade for him, but I see it go wrong so many times. Where Terran players just, for some reason, I guess they can't resist, man. It's like an instinct, right? It's just like a reflex. They have a couple medevacs, they see a little bit of dead space, and they're like, okay, I gotta boost the medevacs in. Very dangerous decision making, but it works out once again here for ByuN, who's now going to be able to shut down another base. And this is becoming very pricey. Now, has he seen the Nexus in the top left? No, he has not. So this could still definitely be a bit of a miscalculation here for ByuN. I wouldn't mind seeing a medevac drop heading on over in the top left direction, or maybe even a Liberator or whatever, right? Like anything to harass that base in the top left. Still though, ByuN getting some stellar traits over here. And what seemed to be a very good start to this series for Classic is now headed in the direction of a Terran win. Oh, it's still so dangerous though. Yeah, we're now at the point, right, where Protoss has, yeah, about as many Stalkers as they do Disruptors. So these Disruptors, one good detonation can still change the tide of this game. Purification Nova is not to be underestimated. Now, with the new upcoming balance patch for StarCraft 2, there's a chance that we're not going to be seeing Disruptors in these numbers in the future. They're going to be a little bit heavier in supply, but they're also going to be able to just get more of a radius on their Purification Novas. Now the base in the top left-hand corner gets scouted. Immediately, ByuN is making a beeline in that direction. But yeah, Classic is now essentially crossing his fingers and hoping that he gets a lucky Disruptor hit. That seems to be his very best approach. And against one of the best micro players in the world, I've got a feeling that that is going to be a very difficult task for him to achieve. Probes over here get scouted as well, and they are going to hide over here on the left side, but most of them are going to go down, if not all of them. Classic, though, has decided, okay, my best chances right now are to go for a counter-attack. He's going for essentially an all-in right now because he doesn't have much money anymore. He does decide to build another Nexus over at the gold base in the bottom right-hand corner. But so far, ByuN is absolutely destroying his opponent's supply count. Purification Novas are trying to connect left, right, and center. One of them over here coming as well from who knows where. It's going to be ByuN who obtains the victory in game number 1. Gresvin, game number 2. I've decided to fast forward through the first 2 minutes of the game because everything is normal. ByuN decided to skip the SCV scout, built a command center inside of the main base, and now he's sending that Reaper straight across the map. Classic did go for a probe scout. So unlike someone like, for example, Hero, right? Hero has been skipping a lot of probe scouts in this matchup lately. Classic decides to go for the more classical approach. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. It's time for the little Reaper versus Adept minigame. And it looks like the minigame is won right here by Protoss. Not bad at all. So Terran's not gonna get a glimpse right here of that Twilight Council. Classic, most of the time, is very much so a Stargate into Colossus type of guy, right? That's what he plays most games. But obviously, he's very capable of playing Stalkers as well. This is the preferred start for guys like, for example, again, Hero and Max Specs. They're big fans of playing this particular style. You can get a lot of value off inside of the main base of the Terran, especially when you go for the 4-gate variant. But if I were to make a guess, Classic is probably more of a 3-gateway kind of guy. Triple gateway into Robo facility. Nothing all too crazy right there for the Protoss. Alrighty. Now the command center in the main base is kind of an interesting one. This is, I guess, ByuN being a little bit concerned for any sort of hyper-aggression on his side of the map. Say like a proxy gateway in the earlier stages of the game. Much easier to fend with a command center in your main base like that. Still though, yeah, now you have to make sure that you actually secure the low ground, which can be a little bit annoying. Second Adept shades in over here as well. Hellions though are out. Stalker decides to join the fray. Fair enough. Yeah, there's more than enough units available though. Medevac right now also comes out. And with good micro, yeah, that boost is gonna allow him to corner that Stalker. Well, corner him in a wide open space, but kill that Stalker. ByuN now continues showing off, apparently. He really wanted to make sure that the Marines only were inside of his medevac and that there was no space right there for the... But, you know, we had some spots. We had some spots. Raven on the back of this too. So this is ByuN just making sure that he does not fall against anything silly. He hasn't scouted his opponent. Classic, not really the type of guy who goes for a proxy gateway and then Dark Templar play, but the Raven is very helpful. At the very least for now, the next multiplayer balance patch is looking to make that a little bit weaker, but yeah, this is a unit that for now is very good in this matchup. Not only is it a mobile detector, you can always shut down any Colossi as well, although against Blink Stalker, especially into Templar Archives, not as helpful. Okay. So this is a build we'll probably see quite a bit more moving forward as well with the new multiplayer balance patch. Essentially the Ghost is being nerfed quite a bit and it will make units like, for example, High Templar and, well, also Archons just a lot easier to control. Third Nexus starting up at the vertical location. Raven, yeah. I mean, it's not gonna get a lot of value in this game, at least as far as like utility goes. But sometimes as a straight damage dealer, as an harassment tool, it can still be very annoying. Especially when Protoss takes their base over here, you can kind of like hang out the Raven in this area of the map. And since there's no Phoenix available to shut you down, you can just occasionally accumulate some energy, throw a bunch of auto turrets down in the main or in the third or in the natural, whatever, and just go back to hiding. Storm coming up though. And this is something I'll have to pay attention to, because there's a good chance that Classic will be going. Okay, we've got these Hellions patrolling back and forth as well. There's a good chance that Classic will be going for some storm drops here. ByuN just patrolling wherever he can. Sometimes hitting a anti-timing, right? Where you're not really showing up with the optimal version of a timing attack can actually work out better because the opponent isn't quite prepared for it anymore. Thought for a second that was a Widowmine, but no, it's just Jimmy. Sorry, Jimmy. You're dead now, mate. Your leg got shot off. It's a little sad, actually, but... Anyways, Storm is gonna finish up. Charge is gonna finish up as well. Is Classic going to go for a big attack? How many gateways are we on? We're currently on 6. We're gonna add gateway 7 and 8 as well into the mix. This is definitely Classic making himself up to go for a counterattack after he deals with this particular Terran army, and it's gonna hit like an absolute truck. He will still need to clean this up, so we've got 4 Templar. 2 at the very least have energy. I'm assuming that the others as well, yeah, will have enough energy to deal with any of this. They're gonna wait inside of the main base. Okay, can we get some Storm? Not needed yet. We'll probably see a Storm here momentarily. But this is annoying, though, for ByuN. His third command center has been fired up. It's building on location. There's the auto turret finally coming in. I guess the medevac, by the way, may have gotten feedbacked, or maybe it got added back into the mix. Not exactly sure what happened to that medevac drop, but I guess it doesn't really matter that much either. I think he actually only had 2 Hellions, didn't he? Maybe he had 4, actually, but... Anyways, that may have been one of the infamous Hellions. Now, apparently, we decide to go for a drop once again, but the Templar bros hanging out together. Auto turrets still being annoying as well, but these lads are ready to lend some storms if they need to. Oh, and they may very well be pulled here into the fight very shortly. Classic will probably be thinking about a 4th Nexus here momentarily. I wouldn't mind seeing a counterattack, but again, this is Classic we're talking about, right? There's the storm, though. Lovely. Good bit of damage done. Apparently, we had a bit of a drop over here inside of the main base as well. None of those units actually around anymore. Yeah, was it the Templar? Maybe. Anyways, Zealots over here got warped in as well to continue the aggression. I think Classic could definitely commit to a bit more. Ooh, nice targeting right there by ByuN. Gets a High Templar. I think Classic could certainly get a little bit more aggressive in these type of games, right? Especially if he gets a medevac over here. Prism is still around. It is gonna get shut down now, it seems, but there we go. Classic decides to pull the trigger. We can even storm those SCVs if we want to. He's probably looking more for the units, though. That is a very, okay, insignificant set of storms. Sometimes I feel like Classic kind of lacks that killer instinct a little bit. And I don't mean this with any disrespect at all, because Classic is just one of the very best players in the world. One of the best tournament players we've ever had. But sometimes he's a little bit too conservative, you know? ByuN definitely does not lack any killer instinct. Sometimes I think he gets a little bit over-eager. And that's not something we can ever really say for Classic. Who's just slowly, methodically trying to improve his position in the game. But sometimes you get into the spots that we saw in the previous one. Anyways, here we go once again. Decent storm. Nothing amazing, but decent storm. EMP over there on the next High Templar. So not enough energy anymore right now for a storm for at least a little while. This High Templar is going to get energy over the next half minute or so, but it's still going to be a little while. And that's the reason, I guess, why Classic is usually a bit passive, right? Committing to an aggressive push, it puts you at risk. Whereas taking the expansion over here in the top right, it's a whole lot easier and a whole lot more reliable, because the odds of your opponent being able to do anything about that after their previous attack sort of got shut down, it's very unlikely. So he's gonna go into a bit of a supply block apparently, but only for a few seconds. And now that Colossus transition as well. All right, so a proper macro game coming right up. 4th command center indeed gets fired up here for Mr. ByuN. So a lot of zealots here. I was gonna say, it's a little bit dangerous to lose this many zealots. You can lose a couple here and there to a run by, but giving away like a dozen of them would be a bit much. 3rd Robo facility already coming up. Oh, this is the infamous Robo game, isn't it? I haven't actually seen the infamous Robo game, but I've heard of the infamous Robo game. So at Gamers8, that's where this particular series is from, actually. It must be this one. It must be this one. Yeah. Classic decided to go for a lot of Robo facilities. Remember that series that I casted recently featuring Showtime, where he just refused to play late game units and he just stuck around on like 40 Archons instead? Different matchup, but still. From what I understand, this is like the Protoss versus Terran equivalent of that match, where we go for a lot of Robo facilities. There we go, Robo number 4. Yeah, so rather than going into Stargate units, I believe Classic is gonna double down on the Robo production instead. He's gonna continue playing a ground-based army, which is very interesting. Now again, he's maneuvering around the map very aggressively. These Zealots, by the way, are within the radar's range. Yeah, so they're not gonna be able to get that much done. From what I understand, from what I've heard, he decides to go, I think like 5, maybe even 6 Robo facilities, and he starts mass producing disruptors. So it's kind of cool because, generally speaking, right, against somebody like ByuN, Disruptors seem to have less value because he's very good at microing against them. But what do you do when your opponent has about, well, 24 disruptors? I guess you go for flying units, actually. Now that I'm saying that out loud, flying units, like for example Liberators, would be amazing in that instance, but we'll have to see exactly how this game progresses, because I haven't seen it yet. I heard stories of this match, though. Okay. Additional gateways coming up. We're gonna go all the way up to 14 gateways. Prism speed. We're gonna go for the additional upgrades as well. Yeah, Classic is apparently playing a big macro game here. So we're currently up to 4 Robo facilities, and I'll try and keep an eye out right there on the production tab to see if he decides to add more into the mix as well. Sensor tower, almost burned down, but not going to happen. Nicely done right there by ByuN as he decides to save it. Still though, yeah, he needs to be very cautious here. Storm? Big storm. Ooh, lovely. No Stimpak activated there either by ByuN to try and get away. There's the anti-armor missile though, and that's another use, of course, from that Raven in the earlier stage of the game. Now suddenly ByuN can start chasing this army very nicely, but disruptors coming from the right side are gonna make it difficult for this bio army to continue chasing. But the Vikings are having a grand old time. Looks like they're mostly being sacrificed right now to get rid of all of those Colossi. And I say sacrifice, but the majority of them still live. Hold up right now. Was that... I decided to back off, sorry. Was that a disruptor killing half of the Protoss army? Or was that just the graphic getting messed up a little bit? No, okay. It's because of the anti-armor missile that I got a little bit confused right there by the colors. I thought for a second that Classic just blew up part of his own force. Not quite the case. That is one thing, of course, to keep in mind about these disruptors. They do deal friendly fire. So does, for example, Sonic Storm, but you're far less likely to storm your own units, other than maybe your own zealots. But you're far less likely to storm your units than you would be to hit the Purification Nova. Alright, now this Nexus is not gonna happen. Dark Shrine coming up. But here's the transition that I think is incredibly strong right here for Terran. There's another Robo facility, by the way. So we really are going up to 5 Robo facilities. The Fusion Core is gonna give him access to Advanced Ballistics, which is the ranged upgrade for the Liberators. Zealot run by over here up north, recall into the main base. Really? ByuN just decides to stand and fight. Okay, he ends up killing a few disruptors, but he also... Okay, he gets quite a few disruptors, actually. So dangerous here, man. So risky. He's actually doing way better than I thought he would. Most Terran players would panic. Sorry, Jimmy. Jimmy got reincarnated. Yeah, anyways. Most of the time, I think Terran players are a little bit concerned and they decide to boost away. Hello, ByuN. Okay, well, this is still gonna turn out to be pretty good right here for Classic. Landed Vikings, very strong against these structures as well. They're very good against probes too, something we don't commonly see, but these bad boys do deal bonus damage against mechanical, so they actually are pretty powerful. Ooh, some nice Purification Novas right here though, coming out of Classic. With this many disruptors, he should be a-okay, or at the very least this much disruptor potential. He can make a whole lot of those units. Okay, Vikings here are gonna get sacrificed, which honestly opens up the opportunity again for Classic here to go into a bunch of Colossi if he wants to. Since I don't think there's actually any Vikings available anymore, no. Those just get sacrificed by ByuN to open up supply for other units. But effectively that does mean that Colossi are once again back on the menu. Big fight over here actually up front. Liberators though are coming up. We don't have the Advanced Ballistics upgrade yet, but I think we'll probably see that fired up here very soon. It's an expensive upgrade, but very nice when you're going up against a ground-based army, because none of these Protoss units can easily get in range. Especially when you have the Liberator ranged upgrade, right? Like, they can just simply siege up from much further away. And the Stalkers can get sort of close, but when there's enough bio army on top of it as well, it's very difficult to actually get a proper engagement in. Okay, some nice Purification Novas attempted here once again. There we go. That is what Mr. Protoss was aiming for the entire time. Leaves behind a Terran bloodbath. Here come the Disruptors up. Yep. I don't think that this one is on the same hotkey group yet. Bunch of SCVs over here. Okay, apparently they got stormed. Lovely play. I think ByuN actually has forgotten about the Advanced Ballistics research. This is a very hectic game here, which makes it difficult for him to get a proper engagement off. But he really does need that upgrade here before too long. Where you're gonna make this many libs, I don't think you really have much of a choice. A lot of SCVs have gone down though. Yeah, these Templar over here, I'm gonna back off, sorry. It's always nice to look at. Happy New Year. The fireworks from Protoss. These Templar over here just hanging out in that prism on the left side of the screen. Very good. I'm trying to not miss a disruptor hit this cast. I usually miss a disruptor hit in games like this. It's actually kind of tricky as a caster and observer at the same time to keep track of all of the things that are going on, especially in a matchup that is as explosive as this one. Okay. ByuN once again loading units into Medivacs. Is he gonna send them across or is he just repositioning? He's trying his best. New SCVs showing up right over here on the left side of the map. Only 57 of them in total available versus 81 for Classic. Classic right now blinks underneath. Lovely work. Once again, Purification Novas. That being said, he's fighting on a planetary fortress, which is always a little bit dangerous. Nexus over here in a lot of trouble. Looks like more storm drops here did indeed end up connecting with the SCVs. We're gonna recall some units towards this base over here. Big Zealot warp in as well to try and get rid of this bio army. Zealots over here as well, going to town everywhere. Classic is starting to overwhelm his opponent. Can he get these units over here? It does look like he will clean them up eventually. Maybe not with the disruptors, but he's getting an awful lot of value out of all of these units. Classic is starting to suffocate the Terran here. No advanced ballistics to be seen anywhere, and now apparently he decides to pull the trigger. He wants to get underneath this Terran army. He wants to see if he can blow them up. A bunch of the ghosts end up going down as well. Good snipes right there though by ByuN, trying to shut all of this aggression down. Making the best of a very tricky scenario, but I think he just successfully microed his way out of an engagement where he was significantly down in supply. The problem is, yeah, as this game goes on, Classic right now is doubling his opponent's work count, and that is absolutely massive. He adds on even more workers as well. I think that fifth... No, he did actually... Okay, I thought that fifth Robo facility was actually not hotkeyed, but it is. He's got a whole lot of Robo facilities ready to produce and just to constantly pump out those disruptors. And while maybe 4 or 5 disruptors didn't work against ByuN, what about 12? What about 27 in total? Woo! Okay, that's a whole lot. Nice Purification Nova over there too. Zealots and Dark Templar just harassing wherever they can, killing and slowing down that economy of the Terran. Classic needs to not get overly aggressive and throw away these units. But at this point, this match is his to lose. Still though, mules are really nice. Yeah, you can see with those mules starting to return minerals, we're getting closer to the baseline here. But they're gonna expire. That's pretty expensive. Okay. 2 more Nexi coming up right now for Classic, who's smelling blood in the water. He's maxed out once again. He is ready to go for another push. He does have 2 prisms available too, so 1 over here, 1 in the main base. Widowmine does get a bunch of damage done, and I do believe that this is gonna get shut down. Doesn't really matter though, because he can't warp in any units regardless. That second prism is probably nice to reinforce the main army with. Classic right now, trying to see if he can, well, obtain the victory right here, right now. ByuN has figured out that his best response here is likely to go for an all-out counterattack. Purification Nova here attempted, and it does indeed connect. But it comes at the cost here as well of a not a cybernetic score, a command center, CC. You know, cybernetic score, CC, command center, CC. Anyways, both structures very helpful here, but that was certainly a fight where Terran did not get the engagement they were hoping for. Some big explosions over here as well. Whew, Protoss trying their best to just bowl while he's retreating, right? Yeah, bowling balls while he's retreating is not a strategy I thought we were ever gonna see out of Protoss, but very, very effective. Look at the amount of money that he's got right now. Yep. He's got like 14 gateways as well, so he can easily reinforce this. Double prism in the main base. Did you know that when you're warping in with 2 prisms, the units actually finish twice as fast? That's a lie, sorry. That's not true. No, there's no reason to have 2 prisms like that together, other than maybe the intimidation. you know, you show off your nonchalance right there to the Terran player. You know, you're showing off that you really don't care that much. You can just, whatever. 2 prisms together, it's not a big deal. It's all the same to me. Terran's now getting cornered. Now, luckily for him, he does have a lot of medevac, so he can probably load these units up and get on out of there. But still, at this point, the supply count is doubled by the Protoss. These bases over here, despite all of the harassment that they've experienced, they are gonna run out over the next couple minutes. After that, what exactly do you do? Zealots are gonna continue the harassment here. I mean, it's planetary fortresses though, so it's gonna be quite nice. Here's another, well, bowling ball trying to get a strike. Ooh, okay, well, that's a strike right there. Yeah, that is definitely a strike. That's what you're hoping for. ByuN trying to pull a rabbit out of a head right now, microing his units to the best of his abilities. But I just don't think he's got the numbers anymore. Additional Immortals right now are walking across 14 Zealots being warped in here as well. It's almost like the Legacy of the Void opening cinematic. Classic obtains the victory in a very dominant way in game number 2. And that brings us to Ancient Cistern, our final game in this best of 3 series. Mass Robo Facility Disruptor. It's interesting. I wonder what that game would have looked like, though, if he didn't have that many storms, right, going off on mineral lines. If he didn't have that many Purification Novas connect. Now, I understand that that's the whole strategy, but ByuN never really got to that transition towards Liberators, right? And I've got a feeling if you're investing into 5 Robo facilities, and by the way, it's a triple command center start here for ByuN, but where you're going into 5 Robo, transitioning from there into any sort of Skytles army, right? Be it into Tempest or Carriers or whatever, it's gonna be very tricky. I also kind of feel like he was only producing out of like 4 Robos most of the time, which is still quite a lot, don't get me wrong, but I would like to see some more exploration with that heavy Robo facility style. It'd be cool to see. It's kind of interesting how lately it seems a lot of Protoss players just don't enjoy playing that Skytles army very much. To be fair, in those turtle games, of Terran versus Protoss in particular, I haven't really seen a whole lot of Protoss wins lately. It seems that Terrans really have figured out how to get it done, and it's really quite difficult for the Protoss to obtain the victory there. Now, obviously, I've already talked about the multiplayer balance patch that's coming up a couple times. There's a long list of changes, at the very least as I'm casting this. I think this video will probably not go live for another week or so maybe there will be some more adjustments made at that point. But anyways, there's a lot of changes on the horizon, so I'm excited for that one. Anyways, 2 Adepts over here at the front. They would really like to get aggressive against this triple CC start. So it's triple CC into triple barracks as well here for ByuN. He is not going to be the aggressor in this game. Classic, going straight into the Robo facility again. If he were to go 4 gateways here, I think he might just be able to push for the win. Of course, this is not something he knows, and this is the first time that ByuN is showing this build in this particular series. So it's always difficult to make that decision, right? And like I said, it's not really Classic who usually ends up doing such things anyways. But this is certainly going to be a more passive approach right here from ByuN. No Widowmine drops. No Hellion shenanigans. No real early game aggression in general. So, the ball is going to be in Classic's court right now. He's got himself the Blink upgrade finishing up. He's going to be able to get that high ground vision as well. And he can blink straight into the main base. There's a bunker over here at the front, which is nice and all. Nice little bit of shoveling here as well by Classic. But look at the main base. So exposed, right? It's literally just going to be Marines. That's where the Stimpak does come in. So if this would be a big Blink Stalker army into the main base of the Terran player, obviously, yeah, Stimpak is going to be very, very handy there. Third Nexus, however, coming up. A Robo Bay coming up here as well for Classic. The Robo Bay. Somebody pointed out in the comment section recently that I roll the R on a Robo facility. In Dutch, we roll basically every single R. So sometimes I get a little carried. But I like the sound of Robo Bay. It sounds nice in my head, okay? I don't know if it's... Maybe it's weird. I'm okay with being weird, though. The Robo Bay. We're gonna have to blink away, dude. Yeah, Stimpak at this point is done. He wants to activate it. Hello? Hello? Okay. He wants the Terran player here to activate it, but... I could even add ours to Warstone than have him, you know? He's getting the Strimpek upgrade. The Marines coming out. Marauders. Oh, my new favorite Terran unit. The Marauder. Just because it's got 2 R's. Amazing. Alright. Medifex. Bada bing, bada boom. Coming up momentarily. So, relatively passive game here once again, but I do like the situation, of course, for ByuN. He's gotten away with a very greedy start. The 3rd command center is now done minutes before the previous ones that we've seen in this series, and that's gonna give him a banger of an economy. Like, yeah, Classic does have a similar work account, and yeah, he does have a 3rd base as well, but he doesn't have those yellow mining machines. Huh? Protoss players wish that they had those yellow mining machines. Now, you can see when they are mining and when they're not. There's some peaks and some valleys, but right now, yeah, exactly. Now these minerals are gonna be returned in favor of the Terran, and it's gonna be difficult here for Classic, especially if he loses an observer like that and he has to occupy his Robo facilities again. Building another one of those. That's the main problem, by the way, with losing observers. It's not so much the cost of the observer, although obviously that sucks, but every single time you produce another observer, it cuts into the production that you would be spending on, well, for example, Colossi, or Disruptors, or the Prism, or whatever. Like, you have to restart it in the Robo facility. So, 2nd Robo is coming up right now. There's already 2 Colossi done, but this is looking like a very scary Terran army. Extended Thermal Lens finishing right now. Okay. 1 force field, very scary looking force field. ByuN immediately loads units into the medevac once again. Honestly though, that was a very critical moment right there for Classic. It seemed very insignificant, but the fact that he doesn't have to fight this Terran army in his face is really quite nice. Classic does also see that there's a bunch of prisms here at the bottom of the map. If he can intercept that, that would be absolutely massive, of course. Here comes ByuN though with his huge army, so he is just piling on the unit production right now. Yep, okay. Here comes ByuN with the medevac drop. We knew that was gonna happen. Classic knew it, you knew it, I knew it. Even ByuN knew he couldn't resist. And he still decided to commit. That is 2 medevacs of units going down though. Unless he gets a Colossus, it's definitely not worth it. But the Colossi right now are distracted, so maybe it can still work out here. Battery overcharge gets sniped really quickly. Not quite perfect force fields, but still, Terran is forced to retreat. Wait, did he lose? Okay, no. I thought for a second that 1 Colossus ended up going down, but... Alright, now we've got ourselves the Ghost Academy transition coming up as well. But that's not really something that ByuN was really hoping to need to do in this game, you know? Like, he was planning on winning this game by now. Instead, he's playing against 4 Nexus Protoss. Come on, boys. Stop sniffing that 1 probe. They're all following the 1 probe around. The Alpha probe. Okay, there we go. He fixed it. We're gonna be going into, yeah, the double Robo facility production as well. Disruptors are coming up right now. ByuN's still with a massive army. But this is a relatively low tier army compared to what our Protoss player has right now. He's also not continued any of the upgrades. So it's 1-1 upgrades here for now and no 2-2 coming up. Okay, here's a big engagement though. Is this good enough? Nice purification novas right there by Classic. Colossus here does end up getting sniped, but there's still a lot of Protoss units available. Can we get another Nova down that ramp? That would be amazing. There's the battery overcharge, keeping that Colossus alive, but only just barely, but that is good enough. I think like 6 or 7 kills in total right there on that Colossus, and obviously a lot of supplemental damage as well. These siege tanks very clumped up together. Yeah, the Zealots managed to get on top of it, so they're all gonna get sniped. Classic may have found himself at a supply disadvantage earlier, but he's now in a really nice position. A couple units here get warped in as well in the main base of the Terran player. Super annoying, of course. Just creating a distraction. And now it's Classic, who was almost on the prowl, okay? If this was Hero, he'd continue fighting, yeah. But not the case here for Classic. He's instead decided to go for a Nexus. The Nexus. The next Nexus. Robo facility number 3 coming right up. All of it is powered by 1 pylon. Well, I guess that this guy has got backup power, but... Anyways. Classic wants to continue onwards with the macro game instead. He's got a 4th command center, ByuN that is. But I feel like he's always, yeah, quite a bit behind in that department here. Obviously, his third base was really quick, but throughout this series, Classic has been heavily out-expending him. And obviously, that is the nature of this particular matchup, but ByuN has been a little bit behind when it comes to those command centers. Alright, Classic, once again, ready to start the counter-attack aggression. Can we get the Vikings? That would be huge. Charge lots against Vikings, not a very common situation that we see, but... Okay, here they go. Okay, well, no, Vikings are gonna fly right away. If ByuN wasn't paying attention there for a moment, it could have been a disaster for him, actually, because these Vikings would have gotten sliced up. Reinforcing units here, running back home. Main fight over here in the middle of the map as well. Classic starting to maneuver around a little bit. Zealots once again are going to engage, and they want to try and see if they can create a distraction over here for these Novas to connect. Turns out that's not gonna happen. Another Nexus now coming up in the bottom right-hand corner. Triple Disruptor production here started up for Classic. How many Disruptors do you want, Classic? Yes! I want all of the Disruptors. Classic is a Disruptor man. And we don't judge him, okay? We don't judge him for that. I mean, I'm a commentator, so I guess I do, but like... Not on a personal level, anyways. We judge his gameplay. That's the only thing we judge. Okay. No planetary fortress over here, of course. Purification Novas! And that one is indeed a big hit. More and more of them are starting to engage over here. We've got a Zealot counterattack as well. Over at that third base. There's a siege tank here trying to get some work done, but... Classic. Going for the suffocation approach. There is a Robo facility number 4 and 5. So he's once again going into the mass disruptor production here in this particular game as well. 3-3 upgrades coming up here for the Protoss as well. He's smelling blood in the water right now. And he honestly got a massive army. He doesn't have an easy way to... yeah, close out the game, I suppose. Especially now with the Prism going down, it can be kind of difficult, but... This is a massive advantage right now for Classic. ByuN is not the kind of guy who will give up very quickly, but I was gonna say there's really not a whole lot remaining for him here. It's indeed Classic who wins this series 2-1.